Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Conversations with the Soul. I'm Rita Hickman, and I'm a body-mind expert and shiatsu massage therapist in Northern Illinois. So the weather's kind of rainy today, so we'll see how well the live stream works, because who knows when the internet's a little shaky because of the weather up here. So anyways, hi Ruth, nice to see you. I'm so glad you're here today. So today's conversation is about soulmates and the pain of separation and the pain of togetherness. Now, all week we've been talking about soulmates and who they really are. And soulmates are anybody that touches you, that gets beneath your defenses, that affects you in a powerful way. And they're there to help you become the person that you want to be and actually find happiness and joy and peace and love and everything that you're looking for. But it's definitely a journey. So let's say you found your soulmate. Let's say you found somebody and they took you on this whirlwind emotional tour. And you think that's it. I found the one, all the work is done. We'll work on the relationship, but nothing that's serious. The challenge with finding a soulmate is that they touch you so deeply and you touch them so deeply that all of the issues and the pain and the challenges that you have come up. Hi, Anne Louise. I'm so glad you're here. So they all come up, and in many older cultures, indigenous cultures, the belief is that they come up to be healed. They come up to be seen through a lens of love. Now, when someone has such a strong connection with us, it's usually based on things that have been going on in our life from the past, things that we haven't quite figured out yet. And when we fall in love or find a soulmate before we really know them, like love at first sight. Good morning. Love at first sight, or any of those whirlwind romance sorts of things. Who are we really falling in love with? We're falling in love with who we think they are, and they're falling in love with who they think we are. You know, there's a lot of great psychological things about how you will find and be immediately attracted to the person who helps recreate all of your issues. Good morning, Kathy. I'm so glad you're here. So we'll be attracted to and want to be with the person who triggers the stuff that's just the deepest in us, our deepest hurts and pains and wounds. And that's exactly opposite of what we think about when we think about soulmates. Good morning, Barbara. Thanks for joining us. It's exactly the opposite. So what we think we're looking for is someone to complete us, someone to make us happy, to be the person that we always needed somebody to be. It usually doesn't work that way. And so there's a lot of pain involved when you find a soulmate, as well as a lot of joy. They bring you enormous amounts of joy and enormous amounts of pain. I have so many women that I've worked with, and they come into me and they say, I found my soulmate. And then soon after they realize that the soulmate work is really, really hard. Hi, Charlene. I'm so glad you're here. The soulmate work is extremely hard, much harder than we ever thought. And we're very tempted to walk away. And this is when you kind of make a choice. You decide, is this person worth making this hero's journey with? Or are they not? Because what's ahead when you find a soulmate is the highest heights of joy and happiness, as well as the lowest lows of pain and difficulty and challenges and mucking through all of the things that caused you the most hurt, whether they're memories of bullies when you were a kid, or how you were ignored, or how you were abused. They're going to bring up all of these things because they made it past your vulnerability. There's a great psychologist I love to talk to who's an acquaintance of mine. And they always said that when you find a soulmate, they're going to be every woman that you've ever met, and not like every woman you've ever met. And for women, it's the same thing. When you meet a man who you think is your soulmate, they now for a while become every man that you've ever had interact with you in your life. Hi, Charlene. I'm glad you're here. They become everything. And the soulmate journey, which is what we all really want, means that we have to work through these things. We have to work through the things that come up. The pain of being together is when all of the fighting happens, and the misunderstandings, and the thoughtlessness and the carelessness, because we really don't know yet who the other person is. I had an experience. I used to go up to the UP, which is the Upper Peninsula in Michigan, and I hung out with a really eclectic group of Native Americans. They were Ojibwe, they were Oneida, Cherokee, plus people from all over the world. When I would go, I was not the most important person in the room. I was pretty far down the list, you know, but I'd sit there, and people would come and they would talk to my friend Bruce Hardwick, who was internationally known as a firekeeper, as a medicine person, as a transformational thought leader, let's say. And they would come and they would spend 2 days wanting to get close to him, wanting to talk to him and interact and engage with him, and not even see who I was. You know, I would try to start up a conversation. Hey, how are you doing? What do you do? And they did not have eyes for me. I was the last person on the list of where they wanted their attention. But after about 2 to 3 days, after they had a chance to talk to Bruce, and he could give them the affection and love and attention that they were looking for, that's when they first started to notice me. That's when they were like, oh, what do you do for a living? Almost like I didn't see you here. And of course I was there all, you know, the whole time, sitting in the background, being part of the conversations, engaging, bringing them food, you know, seeing if they needed anything. That's the same thing with soulmates. What happens is when our wounds are so deep and they're so painful that they're really distracting. They're the only thing going on in our head, only thing going on in our mind, in our body, in our emotions. That's it. What you did to me, or what that man did to me, or what that person did to me. That's the top thing in our mind. And when you're in a soulmate relationship and both of you have that on your mind of what's hurt you the most, and your memories and your old memories that are still just like yesterday. You know, it's just like yesterday of when it happened to you, because we only remember the things that we remember last. We don't actually remember what happened to us. So if something happened to us and we cut it off, then we haven't remembered it or really touched it or moved it or understood it. Hi, Ginger. I'm so glad you're here. We haven't taken the time to understand it yet. And so when someone comes in and they trigger us, all of that's going to come up. So when you've got your soulmate relationship and you're together, it's like this cosmic storm of emotions. It's this, it's going to be a battle between the gods, because it's two people who are trying to get their pain out, trying to move that energy, trying to work things out somehow. And they can't even see the other person yet. They can't see them because they haven't moved the energy of their own pain. Now, sometimes this takes years. Now, me being in a healer position, you know, I've done a lot of soulmate work myself. I've had to have my deepest wounds of when I was a kid, and the issues with my family, and the issues with, you know, people who've done things to me, men who've hurt me, and other kids or who bullied me, and things that happened. I had to work through all those, and I've worked through them with many soulmates by now. And because of that, I have a pretty good understanding of who I am and where I come from and what my triggers are. So when I walk into a soulmate relationship, I'm able to look at the other person and say, okay, now we're going to go for a ride. I'm not blindsided anymore of what is this? This is, you know, the person that will complete me. Hi, Laura. I'm so glad you're here. So I don't get distracted by how someone completes me, how amazing they make me feel. I remember all the time. I remember that this is a healing journey. And the person that I'm in this with, I've chosen to do this with. I've chosen to go on this hero's journey, on the ups and the downs and the betrayals and the hurts and the amazing ecstasies and joys. I've decided to go on this magic carpet ride with them. And so it's my choice. Now, you get to choose any time whether the pain of being together and the pain of being apart is really worth your energy. If this person, if this relationship is worth you healing your wounds over, or whether you'd rather find somebody who might be a little more sensitive or thoughtful or flexible or open-minded. You do get to choose. You don't have to take every soulmate that the universe brings to you. And that's a mistake that a lot of us make when we're young because we don't know any better. We find somebody who makes us feel big, and we think that's the end of the line. And it usually is people, it's almost like a crapshoot. It's the people who have the biggest issues that are now with you when you have your biggest issues, and those relationships a lot of times don't work out. They're almost like practice relationships or ways to start getting on the path of healing yourself and finding happiness. So if your early relationships were like fire and water, if they were like two gods throwing lightning bolts at each other, that's exactly the way that it's supposed to be. Now, when you get older, you get to choose. You get to choose who you want to go on this soulmate journey with. And maybe you choose somebody who's a little bit gentler. Maybe you choose somebody who wants to be kinder to you and be more thoughtful about what's going on. Hi, Michelle. I'm so glad you're here. So you get to choose that. You get to decide which soulmates that you let in and which soulmates that you walk away from. But once you've chosen, it's really smart to stay on the ride. Hi, Jordan. I'm so glad you're here. It's really smart to stay on that roller coaster ride because that's how we heal. If we run away from every relationship, if we think that the pain is too big and you did this to me and I'm not going to go through this again, you're going to stay stuck. You're going to stay stuck in that vortex of unhealed emotions. You're going to not be able to move forward and really find the relationships and the love and the happiness that you're looking for. Some of my favorite people, a lot of my favorite people, had really difficult traumas in their life. And as they got older, they realized it was a gift because those traumas got them on this path of healing very quickly. They had horrible things happen to them, but they were forced to start understanding that deep pain pretty fast. They couldn't stay comfortable with it. They couldn't just slide by and just take a few more medications or just leave every relationship that happened. Hi, Benjamin. I'm so glad you're here. When people came from a background of deep trauma, they didn't have a choice because everyone was their soulmate. Everyone was doing this to them. And they had to figure it out. So when you do find a soulmate, there's going to be a lot of pain of togetherness and a lot of pain of separation. Because right now, that's who you're meant to be with. And you get to choose whether you stay or not. Many soulmates, what happens is one of them will evolve and the other one won't. One of them will learn and grow and shift and change and become closer to the person that they're meant to be. And the other person will just stay stuck in their pain and stuck in their issues. And when that happens, that's when it's time to move on. That's when it's time to find your next soulmate that will help you get to the next level of happiness that you're looking for. Now, sometimes soulmates become life partners. If you decide that a soulmate, that you can tolerate them, that you can handle all of the things that come up for them, if you decide that they're quote unquote it for now, then there's a lot of ways to cope with that pain that comes up. You don't have to just feel like you're being battered by emotions and battered by everything that's going on. There's a lot of great coping skills. One of the best things of when you get into a soul relationship, into a soulmate relationship, is go into it with eyes wide open. Know that this is going to be a ride. It's going to be a journey. It's going to be a big adventure that's going to trigger all sorts of things. Know about that when you walk in the door. Keep your eyes wide open, because if you do, you stay sane. If you do, then you're able to take what comes in and process through it, as well as get the help that you need. There's a lot of help that's out there. Hi, Patty. There's a lot of help that's out there for when you're trying to deal with soulmate issues. You know, one of them is to see somebody who's in the business. See somebody who it's their job to help you navigate what's going on and help you learn from the lessons. Oh, I'm glad you tuned in too. Soulmate work is everywhere, Kathy. It absolutely is. So the first thing you do, you walk in, eyes wide open. This is going to be a ride. This is going to be an adventure. How do I prepare? You prepare for the journey. You don't just walk in with your eyes closed and hope for the best. You prepare by getting yourself into some sort of mentorship relationship where someone is mentoring you, a psychologist, a good friend who's been through these things. You know, that's step number one, so that you don't feel like you're alone and you get lost in your own thoughts. Because when you're doing soulmate work, a lot of deep pain comes up and a lot of deep beliefs come up. And we get trapped in our own thoughts. We don't get out of our own head. And a lot of friends aren't really great support for when you're going through this, because they want to support you. So they're going to agree with your crazy thoughts. They're going to agree with your misunderstandings. Mindfulness meditation is a great, helpful thing for this. So thanks for adding that, Laura. You know, so with the soulmate work, you find somebody to mentor you, great. And the other thing that Laura mentions is to stay mindful. Sometimes it's somebody else has a question, so I wanted to answer it real quick. Barbara, yes, sometimes this is a twin flame relationship. I don't explore twin flame relationships too much, but I always imagined twin flame relationships were those that took you even higher and even deeper. For me, it's the relationships that touch my deepest pain and my deepest hurt. The wounds from when I was 3, 4, 5 years old, you know, or even when I was in the womb, or the wounds that have been handed down in my family, you know, because patterns and mental illness are handed down in my family. And so one of the things every time I come across a soul mate relationship is I find these tools. So I was talking about mindfulness meditation and how that helps. When you're aware of what you're doing, when you don't fall off your cliff into your crazy train, into your thoughts, when you know, I chose this, I'm doing this, I'm choosing this right now, that helps you stay aware. It helps you not be blindsided by things that happen to you, by when people say the exact thing that they know will hurt you the most. Because let's face it, when we're angry at somebody who loves us, or is supposed to love us, parts of us come out, our shadows come out. The darkest pieces and parts of who we are come back, and we want to hurt them. And even though we're not trying to, we do get to a point in soulmate relationships where we want to push their buttons as hard as they've pushed ours. And by now, we know exactly what will do that. We know whether it's detachment and ignoring them, whether it's not giving them any information, whether it's messing with their head. You know, we do this because we feel justified, because we're dealing with so much difficulty. It's not necessarily the way that you want to do it. So mindfulness keeps you from falling into that trap, from falling into the things that make it worse. So when you prepare, have a good mindfulness meditation practice in place, so that you don't fall into the trap of your patterns, of how you always behaved, or of lashing back and lashing out. The other things that I do to help cope when I'm in a soulmate relationship is I make sure that I have space. You know, it's not good to go through the most difficult parts of a soulmate relationship while you are living with somebody. So if you've entered one and found a soulmate for a while, don't rush into close quarters, because that can turn up the heat like you wouldn't believe. You're welcome, Barbara. Close quarters and not being able to hang up the phone, not being able to walk away, not being able to have someplace else to go if you need to. If you move too quickly on soulmate relationships, and we want to because they're the one, they make us feel amazing, and we're sure this one will work out wonderfully. But when you move too quickly, it means that you don't have time to leave and space to leave to process through what's going on. You haven't given yourself space to do the healing work. You've looked at this as a romance relationship, and it can be, and it is, but it's also a healing relationship. And if you don't give yourself time and space to heal, the ability to not spend the night there, the ability to have a place to lick your wounds and process and think things through. If you don't have a space for that, then more than likely the relationship will completely implode because the stress is way too much for that. So when you walk in knowing that that you'll need to have space. You'll need to have anchors that remind you of what you're doing and why you're doing it, that this is healing, that things are supposed to come up, and do an even better job of taking care of yourself. Because if you don't take care of your mental, physical, and emotional well-being, then you're just going to completely fall apart. Because this stuff is hard. Soulmate work is hard when you're together and when you're apart. And you need to learn how to navigate it and survive, or you'll stay stuck on the level that you've always been on. You'll stay stuck on the level of repeating your patterns and finding the same relationships because you never took the time to walk the journey, to walk the path through it, to feel the pain, to understand the difficulties, and to finally see the other person as a separate person and not as a metaphor anymore, where you can see them for who they are in all their brilliance and all their beauty, and you understand them and you have compassion for them. When you're in the middle of your own stuff, and when you do soulmate work, both of you typically are, when you're in the middle of it, you can't find a way out and you can't see the other person. So just like when I said I would go up to the Upper Peninsula and sit there for days waiting for people to even notice me, to even notice that I was there, that's the same thing that happens. You can't see them and your soulmate can't see you. And so you have to work through all of the issues, all of the triggers, all of the pain, well, maybe not all of them, but a good portion of them, before the film can come off your eyes, before the walls can come down. And that's when you've created the relationship that you really want. When you can see the other person in all of their beauty, and they have the ability to see you, that's when it turns into a lifelong relationship. That's when you can move closer together and intimacy happens. So it's about recognizing you're on this journey. It is hard to find space when you are living with somebody, which is why it's smart to take your time in it. And if you are living with somebody who's your soulmate right now, you need to carve out that space. And even if it's seeing a counselor for once a week, or getting a massage once a week, or taking up a meditation practice, or creating rules for yourself. When you're in the middle of this big blow up, in this big fight, and you're throwing all of your pain at somebody and they're throwing all of their pain at you, you have to have rules for yourself of who you want to be. Because you can fall back into your shadow work where you decide you just want to hurt this person as much as possible. Or you can decide, what? When I say this, when I feel this way, this is how I'm going to handle it. I'm going to say, what? I need a little bit of space and I'm going to walk away. For me, when I'm triggered, one of the things that I say is, thank you for telling me how you feel. Thank you for telling me about your emotions. And I leave it at that. I don't react, because then it's that whole tit for tat thing. You're welcome, Kathy. It's that whole back and forth of you did this to me. No, you did this to me. Instead, I honor and I'm grateful that they shared the deepest parts of themselves, the intimacy of what has hurt them the most. And I try to stay in that gratitude place. It doesn't mean that I don't bring up my own issues and my own pain. I just time it for when they can hear me, when they're not in the middle of their own stuff. So fights almost sometimes have to last a while. They can't be resolved in one spot because otherwise it's two people who are entrenched in their pain throwing lightning bolts at each other. Nothing gets resolved that way. But if each of you take turns, one person speaks all of their pain in the way that they do it best, and you stay grounded and say, okay, thank you for telling me how you feel. And then you go away and you process everything that came up. You see your friend, you talk to them. You bet, Laura. You talk to them. You tell them what's going on with you when they're in a more rational space. Because on the other side of emotion is where we find wisdom. On the other side of our pain and moving all that energy is where we find that rationality. So after somebody's exploded and thrown things all over you and you've walked away because you don't want to be that person and you've processed through your emotions and you've been mindful for them and, and exercised and drank your water and did everything that you needed to do, then you come back and you can say, you know what, when you did this, this is how it affected me. When you felt this way, this is what I needed to do about it. So the fight has to sometimes last a little bit longer than you want to. You have to really develop good self-control if you want to resolve things. Because otherwise you just keep circling around and around and around. Bye, Laura. Thanks for joining us. You'll just keep going around in a circle. So if you're in a soulmate relationship, you're going to have pain of separation and you're going to have pain of being together. That's just part of the ride. That's part of the adventure. And as a good friend of mine would say, suck it up, Buttercup. Because if you want to find the lifelong relationship you're looking for, you have to work through all the things that keep you from truly seeing somebody for who they are, loving yourself for who you are, and the emotions that get in the way. You got to work on that. And that's what soulmate relationships are for. So tomorrow we're going to talk a little bit more about soulmates. I hope you're able to join us. If you love this, go to inspiremassage.com and sign up for the replays and the daily emails. They're great inspirations to keep us all on track. It's a movement we're creating of how we can make the world a better place. So, hi, Mark. Nice to see you. So go to inspiremassage.com, sign up. Love to have you part of the tribe. And I will see you again tomorrow. Thank you so much for joining me. Bye.